Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely pumped to share today's story with you. We are going to be unpacking this fascinating historical fable from our source material that masterfully contrasts two deeply symbolic things. On one hand, you have the blinding, seductive gleam of stolen gold, and on the other, the stark, undeniable, and honestly sometimes harsh truth of cheap black ink. It's this profound look at legacy, the corrupting nature of power, and what actually survives when the pages of history are finally turned. Okay, let's dive right into this. Is history written in gold always true? It's a pretty provocative thought, right? I mean, as humans, we so often associate immense wealth, grandeur, literal gold with greatness and success. But does that shiny surface actually reflect reality? Well, we are going to completely skip the traditional agenda today because I want to pull you straight into a kingdom where this exact question wasn't just some abstract philosophical debate. No, it became a literal matter of life, death, and absolute legacy. Section 1, History Written in Gold. So, I want you to picture this. You're in the grand, majestic kingdom of Isfahan. Imagine towering, opulent palaces, bustling ancient markets, and at the center of it all, a king who has absolutely everything. Everything, that is, except the one thing powerful leaders crave the most. He wants the absolute guarantee that he is going to be remembered forever. He desperately desires this unshakable legacy that will echo through the ages long after he's gone. Enter the king's cunning wazir. Now, the wazir is his chief minister and closest advisor, and he whispers this highly ambitious, super flattering idea into the king's ear. The plan is breathtakingly extravagant. Write the era's history in gold water, so future generations remember the king's greatness. Now, the wazir isn't just suggesting using fancy words here. He's telling the king to use literal liquid gold as ink. And the king, who is completely blinded by his obsession with immortality, absolutely loves the idea. He immediately orders the absolute best calligraphers in the entire empire to be gathered at the palace. Out of all these master artisans that are summoned, the king picks one standout guy. Meet our protagonist, Zaryab. He is a highly skilled, handsome, and incredibly dignified young calligrapher. But beyond just looking the part, our source describes Zaryab as having this natural, unwavering honesty. He has this magnetic personality that just naturally draws people to him. The king is totally captivated by his artistry and trusts him completely. So he hands over kilos of pure royal gold with one direct command: melt this down into ink and write my magnificent history. I mean, think about that. That is an immense, almost crushing responsibility placed squarely on this young man's shoulders. Section 2, The Craftsman and the Dark Secret. Okay, so let's see how this builds. The sun sets on the magnificent kingdom of Isfahan. The bustling daytime opulence we were just talking about fades away into the quiet, echoing shadows of the palace at night. Zaryab is settling into this peaceful, secluded corner of the royal estate to begin the massive job of melting down the gold. But while he's prepping his materials, he hears these hushed whispers coming from the dark corridors of the palace. He cautiously goes to investigate, and what he discovers is, frankly, a horrific, kingdom-shattering secret. You see, the gold he is supposed to melt isn't the overflowing bounty of a happy, prosperous kingdom. Not at all. It turns out the trusted wazir has been systematically stealing land from poor farmers. He has been ruthlessly exploiting the absolute most helpless citizens, orphans and widows, just violently extracting their wealth. And then the wazir brings this plundered treasure to the naive king, disguising the whole thing as state prosperity and booming trade profits. So that gleaming gold sitting on Zaryab's desk, it is literally stained with the tears and the suffering of innocent people. Section 3, Zaryab's Deep Dilemma. Suddenly, all those kilos of gold sitting in front of Zaryab do not look so magnificent anymore. They look heavy. They look dark. They look completely corrupt. And here we are, at the absolute emotional core of our explainer. Zaryab is thrust into this agonizing dilemma, and this brilliantly illustrates the exact crossroads he's standing at. Over on the left side, you've got the easy, prescribed path. He simply follows orders, uses the gold to write all these false praises of the king, and boom, he's rewarded with immense wealth, royal favor, and a comfortable life. Easy, right? But then look at the right side, the agonizing reality. To take this path, he has to acknowledge the tears of the poor, choose to speak a highly dangerous truth to a really powerful monarch, and stand up for justice against a viciously corrupt wazir. It is a profound, life-altering moral conflict between guaranteed personal gain and just fundamental, unshakable integrity. Section 4, Facing the Truth in Court. All right, time passes, the deadline finally arrives, and the tension in the air is literally palpable. The entire royal court is formally assembled. You've got nobles, powerful ministers, and of course, the smug Wazir himself, all eagerly watching as Zaryab walks up to the magnificent throne to present the finished, definitive history of the king's glorious era. The stakes for our young calligrapher could not possibly be higher here. The king eagerly, almost breathlessly, opens the heavy, ornate cover of the manuscript. He is fully expecting to be blinded by the brilliance of pure gold pages. Instead, he just freezes. He stares at the pages in complete disbelief, and then his face contorts into absolute volcanic fury. He roars at Zaryab, demanding to know the meaning of this insolence. Because, as you can probably guess, the book was written in cheap, ordinary, everyday black ink. The king screams in front of the entire court, "I gave you kilos of pure gold. Why have you used this worthless common ink?" At this point, the entire court gasps. Everyone is fully expecting Zaryab to be dragged out of the room and executed on the spot. But Zaryab, he doesn't even flinch. He slowly raises his head, looking completely calm, perfectly dignified, and absolutely fearless. He gestures to the heavy bags he brought with him, which, by the way, contain all the royal gold, completely untouched, and he delivers this incredibly powerful line right to the furious monarch. True history is always written with the black ink of justice. He calmly explains to the king that actually, he used the most precious ink in the world, because wealth that is earned through oppression and cruelty, it never, ever survives on the pages of time. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the revelation of what Zaryab actually put inside that book. He didn't just swap out the ink, he totally rewrote the kingdom's entire narrative. There were absolutely no false praises of the king in there. None. Instead, the pages were filled with the heartbreaking groans and the very real stories of the poor. He documented a precise, undeniable accounting of all the stolen lands, and he laid out the complete, damning details of the Wazir's staggering injustice. Zaryab courageously turned a simple act of royal calligraphy into a profound, undeniable act of rebellion against state corruption. Section 5. The Lesson of Truth and Justice. So, the royal courtroom falls dead silent. The king, who up until now had been completely blinded by his own ego and his desire for legacy, is genuinely stunned as he reads the undeniable facts laid out before him in that stark, uncompromising black ink. And, to his credit, he is no fool once the veil of deception is actually lifted. The sequence of events that kicks off next is rapid and completely decisive. Step 1. He orders an immediate, thorough, independent investigation. And unsurprisingly, every single word Zaryab wrote turns out to be entirely true. Step 2. The corrupt Wazir is immediately stripped of all his immense power and thrown straight into the kingdom's prison. And step 3, which is absolutely the most important step here, all of that hoarded gold, all that stolen wealth, is immediately returned to the poor farmers, the widows, and the orphans it rightfully belonged to in the first place. And what about Zaryab? You'd think he'd be in trouble, right? Well, he wasn't punished for his defiance at all. Actually, he was elevated by it. The king appoints Zaryab as his special, highly trusted advisor. The king experiences this massive shift in his own worldview here. He declares to the entire empire that real beauty and lasting greatness don't actually lie in the superficial shine of stolen gold. They lie in the unwavering truth of a person's character. So Zaryab's integrity essentially ended up saving the very soul of the kingdom. So the crucial point we really need to take away here is summarized perfectly by the underlying moral of our source material today. An identity built on oppression and lies is temporary. The path of truth and justice brings lasting honor. It really doesn't matter how much gold you try to use to paint over a rotten, corrupt foundation. Time and history will always eventually expose the truth. Real, enduring legacy is always built on fairness, not extraction. Which brings us right back around to you and me. The kingdom of Isfahan might be ancient history, but let's be real, the human condition hasn't changed one bit. In today's modern world, in your own personal life, in your career, what ink is writing your legacy? Are you chasing the shiny, superficial gold of lies, shortcuts, and exploitation? Or are you willing to use the sometimes harsh, but totally permanent, black ink of truth and integrity? It's a choice we literally have to make every single day. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep actively learning, keep asking those tough questions, and I will see you next time as we break down another fascinating topic.